Hey guys, I'm your host, David Powell, and you're listening to Curiosity Veg Radio. Hey guys, welcome to episode 37 of Curiosity Veg Radio. And for those who are new, just a little insight that Curiosity Veg is a movement which will open a dialogue between vegan, vegetarian, plant-based, and non-plant-based people alike, with where we educate, not intimidate. Here we go. Oh yeah! All right. This is also technically that's our 2 year mark around now, and I think it's great. This is always our year marker around early November. This is a chance to get. I love the so delicious eggnog. I love the holiday season. We get like the eggnog and the mint chocolate drinks and all the peppermint stuff. It's really great. And actually, we were out grocery shopping this past weekend and picked up a few things. I was like, hold on, we need to go to the non-dairy vegan section. And sure enough, had newly arrived. So I was all excited. But so this is starting year 2. I'm really excited. We've already had a few interviews and episodes to end this session out. We don't really do season 1, season 2, season 3 stuff like that. We basically just count up from episode numbers. But it's definitely been an interesting second year, to say the least, with you have the unexpected break and then kicking things back off all on my lonesome. Speaking of being all on my lonesome, if you would like to be a guest or even a guest host, there's some we can work out a show, some topics, and just dig in. If you don't have anything you really want to talk about or something you feel like is really would put you at the level of like being a focused guest, but instead of having just a dialogue, would love to have you on. You can do so by contacting me by going to curiosityvegradio.com, go into contact, shooting me an email, letting me know you'd like to be a guest or a guest host. What if you have any topics or something specific you'd like to go over, and more than happy to work out something with you, time to record and just have you on. Whether or not it's just a few topics or something specific that you want to cover. You can also find all of our social. If you can't get me there, you can find all of us on. You can find my social on the site. Facebook is the most direct and easiest way. That is CV Pod. So Facebook.com/CV Pod. I just got access again to the Instagram unexpectedly, so I'm gonna start posting there again, and I'll be back up on the site, so you can get hooked up to our Instagram, and I'll be sharing pictures of really kind of behind the scenes stuff, me going out, what I order, maybe some live video stuff every now and then. But definitely hook up with us on Instagram and Facebook and all those channels, or just contact me if you want to say something about the show, something that you like, something you dislike, topics you like to hear, anything like that. And speaking of topics and starting out the year, I think we're really starting out, the third year right. Honestly, this this episode was it's probably one of the most inspirational, not the most inspirational, because it's definitely on par with some of our great stuff we did with Gene Bauer, Robert Cheek, and Sonny Mayo. Those guys were really, some very memorable interviews that we had done. Today we have an interview with Jordan Winar. And Jordan, I didn't ask how to pronounce your last name, so I really hope I'm pronouncing that correct. But Jordan Winar, he is a plant-based athlete and a businessman. He runs a sales. He runs a multi-million-dollar sales organization. He's the author of upcoming book, The Gazelle Mindset. He's husband and father of 3, and a Xterra off-road triathlete. And this is one of the interviews you. It's one of the conversations and interviews that you can't kind of just skim through. You can't listen to the beginning or the end and kind of get the gist of what we're talking about. He really went in depth in answering a lot of the questions that I asked, and he imparted a lot of knowledge and things that I think you'll get within his book, as well as outside of it. That he did got a little deeper into a lot of things where he talks about the Gazelle Mindset. To kind of give some insight into that, I don't want to talk too much about it. I really want you to listen to what he had to say. But Jordan hit on something like my dad had in his office when I was younger. It was, every morning the gazelle wakes up on the plains of Africa, and the lion wakes up on the plains of Africa, and the gazelle has to run faster than the fastest lion. The lion has to run faster than the slowest gazelle, and things like that. Which one are you going to be? You're going to be a lion or gazelle. I grew up with that on my father's office wall. And I thought, oh, that's inspiration. You're going to be the lion. And he really talks about how you don't want to be the lion. And that's it. I don't want to get too deep into it. I think it's something, this is an episode I'm going to go back and listen to myself. Because, like I said, I got a lot out of it. And I know you will too. It's, I believe we've had the interviews we've had in the past are amazing. Even the recent ones have, they're inspirational of, starting up your own businesses and doing things and overcoming obstacles and doing things you never thought you could do before. And I think Jordan really puts a mound of icing and a big cherry and sprinkles and chocolate on top of all of that. Really drives home about what it takes to jump into something you're unfamiliar with and just really taking a hold of it and talking about how much it's about the journey and not so much destination. I know I'm kind of rambling a little bit, but it's definitely one of the few interviews that we've done that I can say that it's almost like when it's done, I had to kind of stop and kind of almost decompress because it's a lot. It's a little long, probably a little longer than we've done recently, but again, it's more. It's something that I think everyone is going to get something out of from beginning to end. If you have to kind of listen to this in parts, I'm not telling you this so you listen to the whole show. I'm telling you this because I really, a part of what we do is, not only nurturing, if you're vegan, vegetarian, or thinking about going plant-based, or making some transitions in your life from a diet standpoint and health standpoint. We also talk about the mental and the emotional health of a person is just as important as your physical health. And it's something that he really taps into and really goes in depth, and I think will really drive home a lot of that part of it. I don't want to keep you too long from the conversation, but he does have a book coming out. I'll have links to everything. He'll keep me updated when there's a sign up so you can get more information. I'll make sure to push out on our social media, so make sure you like our Facebook, follow us on Twitter, so you can get updated when his book is coming out, because definitely you should all read. It's a free book. He wants it out there so everyone can really, have the same mindset and really achieve what they're trying to achieve. And I would love, at least some of you can listen to the episode. I would love to hear what Jordan's words said to you. I would love to know how they impact you, and just some feedback from what Jordan had to say. And really, I don't want to hold you from it any longer. Without any further ado, please enjoy our interview with Jordan Winar, the extra off-road triathlete, husband and father, and author of the upcoming book, The Gazelle Mindset. All right, enjoy, guys. Bye.
What's up, David?
Hey, buddy, how are you doing?
Good, man. Sorry about that. That's my. We brought a buddy with us to Hawaii because we have 3 kids with us. So he's kind of our Manny for the week.
I'm sure he's enjoying that job.
Yeah, he's also our tech guy too. He's a tech guy that wanted to come watch the race, and get a little trip, but he's watched the kids for us too, which is great.
Well, that's cool. You get a little trip. There's a little work. It's a fair trade-off, I think, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I see you still have your race numbers on. Did you run today?
No, it was from yesterday. I got to get those off. I've been having long sleeves on, and then finally, I need to put some vinegar on them and take them off, and we'll be good to go.
What is it made of?
The sticker?
Yeah, is it just like is it kind of like a?
It's like a kid's tattoo almost. Yeah, they make you mark up your body, put your age and all that kind of stuff on there, so they can get you on the TV, make sure that they know the names that are announced and that are coming through.
That's awesome. The closest I've ever been is I've run the Spartan race a few times. That's probably the closest I've done to anything like that.
Man, that's no joke though.
It was fun. It's I've done it. I did the 3 miler. So it's actually about 4.5, and it's challenging. But it's
yeah, it goes up to the half marathon, doesn't it?
Yeah. They had. I don't know if they do it anymore. They had the death race. So they literally would tire you out and then send you out. You had to do push-ups and burpees, and then they would start the race.
Nice.
And I think like 2% people who run that one actually finish it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal.
Cool.
It's brutal, but there's like cash prizes for that one and stuff. Mine's just more like you get a medal and a beer. Congratulations.
Yeah. That's cool.
It's fun though. So what are you what are you doing over? Were you in Hawaii right now?
Yeah, in Hawaii right now. So it's 2:00, my time, and I guess it's getting close to probably 8:00 your time, right?
Yeah, just after. Yeah, it's like 8:04 now. Yeah. It seems like the weather's pretty nice there too compared to here.
Oh, I can look out and see the mountains over here, the oceans this way. So yeah, it's a rough life here for the next few days.
It's pitch black and freezing here. So I envy you. I envy you. What sports do you participate in now? Are you just doing triathlons, or what are you doing now?
Yeah, I was big into lifting weights and exercise for the most part, and then kind of fell into triathlon, specifically off-road triathlon. So, your on-road triathlon, swim, bike, and run. This is, you still have a swim, but you're going to mountain bike, and then you're going to do an off-road trail run. Kind of fell into it, and then it just turned into this huge thing that after I did my first race, I really wanted to see if I could qualify for this world championship here in Hawaii, and it worked out quite well. Specifically, training and training goes into exercise, right? And then also recovery, and recovery can include resting, but it also includes diet, which a lot of people overlook all the time. They exercise to eat, right? So.
Yeah, there's a blog I read once. That's all he talked about. He goes, he exercises and runs. Like I can't remember who he was, but he runs like 3-4 miles to burn calories. So he'll go home and just eat terribly.
It's like insane.
That's not sustainable.
No, it's not. And a lot of people try to do it, and they do it for a time, and they go on this yo-yo thing that's so awful for your body.
Oh yeah.
And they do it for years and years, and then they wonder why they have complications later on. There's just direct correlations to it.
Well, yeah, and it's people falling in and out because you'll jump on a fad diet and exercise routine, and then you end up slipping out of it and falling off the wagon in a sense, and you end up going back into your old habits, gain your weight back, and everything kind of actually starts like plummeting, getting worse and worse the more often you do that.
You believe it? I was one of those people. I've done it since I was a kid, where I'd be on a swim team, and then after swim season was over, I'd go play golf, and then I'd gain a bunch of weight, and then I'd go back into swim season. My coach would say, Jordan, you're way out of shape. How does this happen? And it was just this cyclical thing. And then at college, it was the same deal, right? Summer comes along, you want to look good, and then winter comes along, and it's cold and dark, right? So it's like, I'm going to have my jacket on.
Exactly.
And all of a sudden, you have to make a change at some point, right? And that's kind of what happened to me. So.
Were you always like into sports and athletic when you're younger, or is that something you kind of grew into?
No, I hung up the cleats probably 10 years ago, and this whole thing in terms of diet and triathlon came upon this past year. So I was always athletic growing up. Played sports as a kid, just like most kids do growing up. You know, they're joining a team and it's fun for them, and it gives their parents a break, right?
Yeah.
And then you kind of hit the college life, and after college, you go to work, and your sports life's kind of over with, right? Because you're working anywhere from 40 to 80 hours a week, and you're traveling and all these different things. And then you know, your next goal is, okay, marriage and the house and the dog and then the kids, and sports kind of gets thrown out the window, and the sports you end up playing are not anything that gets your heart rate up, right? Your social league volleyballs, you know, golf, things of this nature. So this past year, I had a buddy who was overweight, and he said, "Hey man, I want to lose some weight." I said, "Let's schedule a trail run." So without making any hesitation, we were at breakfast that morning, and we both signed up online, and that was kind of all she wrote. And then this kind of evolved into this monster that it's become, and which is why I'm sitting here in paradise.
Well, I noticed I was reading a little bit about your travel to where you are now, and you kind of just like dove straight in. You didn't really you didn't wade in the waters really at all. Which
No, you know, it's. I was thinking about that, and it's interesting because you have I think subconsciously, I was having this transformation at the middle of last year, right? So you have all these things that kind of pop up to you almost like as commercials in your mind, psychologically. And I was at this conference. There's this guy. He's putting on this conference in Dallas, Texas. He's worth $400 million, and he claims his big claim to fame was, I can push my body so hard for so long and have no repercussions, is because he was a vegan for 20 years, and now he's a vegetarian and he eats, you know, some fish. But long story short, that kind of intrigued me, right? And then when I looked into it, you know, June, July of last year, I thought, it's a lot of work, right? And you kind of connect these different things, and then you learn about these other people that, you know, 40% of all your stress you can remove from your life if you go to a plant-based diet, right?
Right.
Which, if you ask somebody, David, if I could remove 40% of the stress out of your life, would you do it? Of course you're going to say, yeah, absolutely, I'll do it. No question. And then you tell them how to do it, and they don't really like that response, right?
Right.
So that's kind of a joke I like to play with a lot of people when you're sitting down to them at dinner and say, hey, you know, if I could take 40% of your life and it's non-prescribed, would you do it? And we kind of opens up this dialogue into why I'm eating a salad when we're out to dinner at a steak and seafood place, right?
Right.
That's how it started subconsciously, right? So all these things started popping up in terms of going to that conference and having this elite individual business person, right, talk about it. And I thought to myself, well, I'm not really an athlete. I like exercise and stay fit. But, yeah, pushing my body isn't that big of a deal. Is it affecting that much? And then I started reading books, right? And they start talking about stress levels, and then all of a sudden I sign up for this race, and it hit me, right? If I could recover significantly faster and get faster to try to qualify for this in the first year that I've ever started triathlon, the only way that I could do it is going to a plant-based diet. So for me, it was one of those things where a doctor comes to you and says, you have 30 days to live. Here's what you need to eat if you want to survive. The choice is yours. You can continue to do what you're doing.
Right.
But if you really want to accomplish this goal, this is what you're going to have to do. So, you know, in an instant, I made the decision to switch.
So were you doing triathlons and then you started going plant-based to kind of help your training and help your recovery, or did you do them simultaneously, starting doing triathlons while making that transition?
So what happened was I did my I ate some. I guess it depends on how you think of eating as clean, right? So my first triathlon was at the beginning of this past year, right? And then what I went into is I had read this book. I read two books actually. One was by a plant-based athlete, Rich Roll, and another one was by a plant-based athlete of Brandon Brazier. And a long story short, they were talking about how they could recover so much quicker. So I said, just for the heck of it, let's see what happens in 30 days from my first triathlon to the second, right? And all of a sudden, I had so much pent-up energy from each day of exercise. It was very, very strange, right? So I increased my workload, and my energy was going up, right? And it was very strange in the first 30 days. I drove to St. Louis, had my triathlon there, excuse me, and did quite well, right? So I made this significant improvement, but the conditions were awful. So a lot of these regulars were saying, hey, you know, you got lucky, right?
Right.
So at that point, I was forced to do it for another 36 days because that's when the next race was. So I did, and it was the same thing. I mean, I was sleeping better. I was feeling better. I wasn't crashing at all. My productivity at work was significantly higher. It was incredible. So that's kind of what continued this. And then once I saw those results, I wasn't going to argue with them.
Well, have you had any not necessarily pushback, but any questioning or anything that among the other athletes you work with?
Oh, nearly every single day, right? You know, when you go to the gym, I work out at the gym. They open up at 4:30 in the morning, right? And you have guys who are in great shape. From the outside, everything looks really, really good, right? But when you get in the locker room and you start talking about their problems, right, and how they solve them, a lot of people turn to food, right, to kind of solve their problems because they can get absolute certainty from what they eat. So, yeah, you have people in the gym saying, man, you're going to lose all your muscle because you're eating plants. There's no protein in it, right? And that's the famous boring question that everybody asks you, right? Where do you get your protein?
Exactly.
Then you have a lot of friends that you go to a race and you're good, and they say, you know, man, we used to eat steaks all the time. Can't you just, like, take a break for one day, right, and just, you know, break it? And it certainly I could, right? Nothing's going to happen to me. But you've kind of made this choice up into this point, right? Whether it's smoking or something like that, where, you know, what's one cigarette or something like that, right? But if you have made the decision just stop, then there's really no past tense to work. What's interesting is there was a transition, predominantly from the people that I'd always exercised with and the triathletes that were highly successful. They had seen me progress so quickly, and they would, you know, you get bullied at the beginning of saying, hey, where do you get your proteins? You're going to eat rabbit food, all this kind of stuff too. Hey, man, tell me a little bit more about what you're doing, right? Because this is really weird. You're having an awesome year in business. You're having an incredible year in sport, and maybe there's something to what you're doing. So give me some insight into your diet, right? And that's kind of how that traversed into what it is now.
Yeah, well, it's the concept of the proof is in the pudding. I get, you know, is the saying that, you know, it's when people actually, you have something you're doing or something different you're trying, and people actually see it work, it kind of makes them kind of open up and start asking, getting more intrigued.
And you know, it's almost like going plant-based or anything like that. It's like black magic, right? You have to work really hard to find information on it, because there's not this marketing collateral of the Atkins diet and the Paleo and all this kind of stuff that we just get inundated with. Right. And because we get inundated with, we say, okay, this must be good, right? But to find out that beets help your cardiovascular ability significantly while trying to lift more weight or run faster, it's wild, right? Or what plants can do to help you function, your brain function, right? Or the
you had mentioned the protein thing, which I get, and we all get at one point. Have you had to add any supplementation or anything like that?
I do. You know, if I'm going through like a heavy set of trying to max out or something like that in the gym, or certain things of that nature, yeah, I'll take a plant-based supplement protein or something like that and throw it into my shake, 30 grams or something like that. I might do that 3 times a week or something. But aside from that, no, I sure don't. I stick pretty rigid to actual real food rather than supplements.
All right. You were. I had read that you actually were essentially like going like on a paleo diet before you went vegan. Is that correct?
Yeah. So it's all protein, and you know it's somewhat whole food, right? I mean, you're eating stuff of the earth. You're not eating chips, right? And as you know, you can be a vegan or you can be vegetarian. You can be massively overweight, right? You can eat chips and Cokes all day long. It's not good for you, but you can do it.
True.
So, yeah, I'm on a pretty strict paleo diet. So I was eating a ton of steaks, ton of salmon, trying to beef myself up. And what's interesting about that is the more you research about high protein intake, man, it just trashes your kidneys and things of that nature. Not only that, but you sleep horrible. You're tired all the time because your body's just working so hard to try to process all that food. So if you're trying to process all that food, obviously it's going to get affected somewhere else in your life, right?
Yeah.
That could be relationships, that could be work, that could be somewhere. But something's going to take a backseat.
What did you find was the hardest part about making the transition?
I'd probably say, people ask me that, what was the hardest part? Believe it or not, it's probably breakfast. Because I was still, I wasn't eating bread and things of that nature. So it was very confusing. I tried to do a swim in the morning, but when I had first started, I was fucking chocolate, right? So when you're used to having bacon and egg for breakfast every single day, or some sort of omelet, and then go to a breakfast with buddy of yours or a business meeting and say, give me the omelet without the eggs, get a cross-eyed look and saying, this is a vegetable, or something like that. And you're like, yeah, that'd be great.
Right.
That was probably the biggest challenge, because it was, for 30-something years of my life, I was having protein for breakfast, right? And shoving it down to get every day. So the study was just being kale together, broccoli together. Yeah, so I timed my breakfast one time, and it was the most difficult change in the diet was breakfast, right? Because you're used to eating eggs, bacon, turkey, those types of things, right? Or a bagel with salmon and cream cheese on top of it, or cereal with milk in it, right? So the transformation going to sauteing broccoli was almost like mentally very difficult to get over that. So a way to do that is by having a smoothie. I like to do it. You can do a smoothie in less than 3 minutes time. I could probably do a smoothie in less than 90 seconds now that I have everything ready to go. And I predominantly freeze everything. So I get my blender out and I throw in frozen kale, spinach, almond butter, banana, and those two things are very strong in taste, so they mask everything else. And I throw in blueberries, beets, carrots, whatever I have around, maybe that's just on the counter. I mix it all up, throw water in there, and then I have it in a big old jug for the next 3 hours, right? And I make a really big one, so that keeps me going for the first part of the day till about, 11 or 12 o'clock or something like that. But that almond butter and banana makes a big difference because it masks all the flavors. If you're not used to having, straight kale or spinach or beets, right? And it's like, I don't like beets. I tried them when I was a kid, and I haven't tried them for the last 3 years. So not only will that give you energy, but it's not going to just make you crash at 9 or 10 o'clock, right? Or when you go to lunch with your friends and you have to have that, 4 more cups of coffee at 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That'll kind of get your blood sugar level correct, and then set you apart for the rest of the day.
Do you find that you went to a vegan diet, you're having to eat more, or is it about the same as it was before?
It depends what I'm eating. If I'm carb loading for a race and I'm taking down sweet potatoes, then yeah, I'm actually probably going to eat less there, right? But if I'm eating a ton of kale and beets and broccoli, then I'm going to eat it. I'm going to eat a ton more, right? And I'm still of the fact that I'm a comfort eater, right? So when I get home at night, I can make a massive stir fry, and having 2 bowls of it makes me feel good, right? Because it kind of slows me down a little bit, makes me feel good of that certainty of putting it into my body, right? Which a lot of us have if we had a stressful day or something like that with a bad customer or a bad boss or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
You can. The cool thing about it is you can have higher intake because what you're eating is lower in calories, right?
Right.
If you're eating whole foods rather than sitting down with baked Lays because they're vegan or something like that.
Well, I think that's the thing that most people fall into when they go vegan is they don't realize that plant-based diet tends to be, like you said, lower in calorie, higher in nutrition. So they tend to try to eat the same amount they did before, and they're not getting the adequate calories. So they always say like, well, I felt tired and I was slow and I was hungry all the time. There's a big mistake people make when they try to make that transition.
Yeah, and you know what? Believe it or not, I've had a few friends flip um, to a vegan diet, and they do go through a time where it did slow them down a little bit, but once their body reset, almost like it's detoxing itself, um, they came to life, right? I mean, their color changed in their skin and things of that nature. They started sleeping better at night. So I think part of it could be a low calorie intake, but at the same time, I think it's also your body saying, we're not used to this stuff that you're putting into our body. Because I'm used to having a massive steak with, you know, one thing of asparagus, or I just leave the asparagus off, but it was nice to have color on the side of my plate.
A little garnish.
That's right.
Yeah, I like how vegan food is used as the garnish for everything else. Like,
Mm-hmm.
well,
It's wild.
what's you talk about being sluggish, and I think that's part of it too, as far as getting used to it. Because what you eat changes your gut flora, and your gut flora dictates a lot about how you feel and how you think, and even your how your cognizance. And eating a healthier diet is going to pump up that better gut flora, and it's going to actually make you feel better and actually move better. It just takes time for that transition.
Absolutely. Just like anything in life, right? You go to the gym the first time, you're going to probably be pretty sore the next day, right? But if you've been going for 2 or 3 months, that soreness has gone away. And that's in anything, right? If you're learning a new language, as you make that transition, yeah, you're gonna go through some changes here or there, and it's different for everybody, depending on where you're coming from, where you're starting from, or what your past has been like, right?
Right. Well, considering we talked about earlier, you had you kind of made a big leap from going into triathlons and essentially doing one sounds like almost every month to a degree. What would you say to someone who is looking to make a big change, whether it's start a new sport or just make a jump into a new area of life, based on your experiences in making these big changes? What would you say to someone who's looking to do something similar?
I think you have to have a massive why, right? I think when our parents told us when we're growing up, or whoever raised you for that matter, and they said you can do anything you put your mind to. And it's a nice thought, right? Well, yeah, David, I want you to do whatever you put your mind to. But when you think about what you really want to do, and it's such a big thing to overcome, right? Maybe you did those things as you were a kid, but there's some point in life where you kind of, you hit your, where you just have to have a job and you're trying to pay the bills, right? And that kind of gets transferred to you telling your kids you can do anything that you put your mind to. So for me, I wanted to show my kids that at any point in time in life, whether you're, my 6-year-old daughter, or you're my 42-year-old brother-in-law, or you're myself who's 33, or my dad who's in his 60s, right? There's no better time than now to make a change, and you're literally a moment away from making a change. So for me, when I went on this journey of trying to accomplish the world championship, I knew it was going to take a massive change. So I think that people make massive change for 2 reasons: pain or pleasure. So like I said before, if I wanted to qualify and come and take my family to Maui to compete with the best athletes in the world in off-road triathlon, I would have to make some dramatic changes that, if you asked me in the past, I wouldn't have done. One of them being my diet, right? So I associated so much pleasure with coming to this island and competing with these elite athletes and Olympians that all of a sudden everything else in the world related to certain food that didn't help me accomplish that goal became pain. And then it's just transferred into that, right? So we finished the race yesterday, and there's a guy that comes up to me, and he's one of the fastest guys in all the U.S., is national champ, and he says, hey, man, break that diet for one day. Let's go get a burger down there. We earned it. And, all of a sudden you associate, because as soon as you finish this world championship, you think, what's next, right? Where can I go next with this? And I know for a fact, and I'll tell you a real quick story, because I almost thought that going plant-based was kind of ludicrous, and maybe it didn't make sense. And this happened about 6 weeks ago. About 6 weeks ago, I'm on a business trip traveling to New York City, and I'm fortunate to work with some of my best friends, and we're all in New York City None of them are vegan. And we had this place. It's a great place, but we were going out to eat every single night. And then when we were having this Airbnb, we went up into the Finger Lakes of New York. So we went to the store. We had to get all this food, and there wasn't good options in terms of produce at this point in time. This little grocery store we went to, so they're loading up on burgers and steaks and hot dogs and all this kind of stuff. And I loaded up on stuff that, essentially was okay for my diet, which included, chips. I added some sodas in there that I hadn't had in a very, very long time. Just a bunch of junk food, quite frankly, David. So anyways, I had to run a 5-mile run, and I wanted to make the 5-mile run in 6 minutes and 30-second pace, right? So I was just going to get up in the morning on Sunday and get cruising. So Saturday night, we're all hanging out. I get to bed at a decent time at 10 o'clock. Our flight takes off from New York City at 10 o'clock, so I had to start this run at about 5 a.m. And when I woke up, it felt like a truck had hit me. And I told all these guys, I said, I'm glad I had this experience, because for a while I thought that this was hocus pocus, right? I thought that this diet wasn't life-changing, and all of a sudden I realized in a matter of just 48 hours, when I ate like terrible food, that my body rejected it, and all of a sudden it was slowing down, and it was saying, man, I can't live this way. You can't function at this high level. You can't work. You can't train. You can't be a dad of 3 and try to do all these things by putting junk into your body. And at that point in time, that kind of solidified the point of the transformation, right? So it was a mind and a will game for the first part, and then it kind of pushed it over into a conversational piece, and then it turned into, and this is just my life, because this is going to be a better life. I'm going to have a stronger life. I'm going to live better. And it's just who I've become, right? And life's all about living life to the fullest. So, and that's how I want to do it every single day. So I'm glad I had that experience. While it wasn't fun, it was eye-opening.
First, how'd you do in the race today? Yesterday.
I did all right. I flipped over my handlebars. I could show you some pretty good gashes, and
it happens the best.
Yeah, I finished about middle of the pack, which I was a little bummed out about. But I ended up finishing it. I gotta get to my doctor once I get back to Texas, have him look at my hip, because I fell pretty bad.
I hope you're all right.
Yeah, I think I'll be okay. I've got a little bit of a limp, but I'm going to take off the next week. So
okay, a little rest.
Once I get back to Texas, I'll get it checked out and see if it's anything too terrible. But maybe it's just bad as well.
I hope you're okay. Hope everything checks out all right. It's a good thing you're taking a little time off. But it was just, you talk your story. It also reminds me of the old story of with the, I think it's always attributed to like an Indian story of the 2 wolves that reside inside you. One is kind and one is aggressive, and they're always fighting. And that child asks, which one wins, and the old man responds, depends on which one you feed.
That's absolutely true, and it all goes back to food is a psychology, right? It's an emotion. That's all it is.
Oh yeah.
We just tie things to it. But my mindset at the beginning of this year was this Gazelle Mindset, and it's an African proverb. I'm sure you've heard of it, right? So you got this gazelle, and they say, gazelle wakes up on the African Sahara, and it's a hot Sahara, and all of a sudden it starts running, and it just has to outrun the fastest lion, right? And then the lion wakes up on the African Sahara, and this lion, who's this massive beast, has to wake up and just run faster than the slowest gazelle. Whichever you're the gazelle or the lion, you need to wake up and run as fast as you can, right? Well, when I first heard that analogy, I thought it was a good one, but as I thought more about it and really uncovered it, I couldn't stand it. Everybody wants to be a lion in this world, and they want to be able to just rip things apart, right? And when you look at a lion, when I look at that analogy, the lion sleeps 23 hours a day, and it's attacking one of the weakest things in all of the Sahara, right? It's going after a gazelle. So in my opinion, I'm thinking, why do I want to be a lion who's just taking out the easiest thing and going back telling his buddies, hey, man, I took down this gazelle. Hey, good for you. You know, you're 7 times the size of this gazelle. So as I thought about the gazelle a little bit, it's pretty incredible, right? What kind of story is that? We come back to the herd, and, you know, I come to you and I say, hey, man, I outran a lion today. What a story, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And gazelles are an incredible animal. They can run 55 miles an hour for over 20 minutes long, you know? And guess what? They eat grass. But the cool thing about it is they have a herd, right? And they have to stay in a herd. And the better that they stay in that herd, the better chances they have for survival. So that was my mindset all year long, is having this gazelle mindset. And it's kind of transferred into my diet. It's transferred into giving everything you have. Because if you're a gazelle, you do have to wake up, and you better run faster than that lion, or it's going to catch you, right? And that's it. And that's what life's all about. And going back to the diet, people always say, well, hey, you know, primal people ate steaks and all that kind of stuff. Well, believe it or not, we've evolved, right? I mean, I'm in Maui right now, and I can go to a grocery store 9 steps away from my resort, and I can go pick up any sort of produce that I want. I don't have to hunt something, right? I don't have to chase it down. It's the 21st century. If I have an issue with my hip, I'm not going to have some witch doctor try to slam it back into place. I'm going to go see a doctor, and he'll fix it.
Right.
I think that's the cool thing about the plant-based diet is this really is a natural medicine that can heal so many diseases. I heard an awesome quote this morning from a buddy of mine. He said, you know, every meal is a short-term investment in how you feel, a mid-term investment in how you look, and a long-term investment in your freedom from disease, right? And it's just based on food. That's all it is. It's food, right? I attached sport to it, and that helped me kind of overcome this, but it's transformed my whole life. And it's affected my family, it's affected my friends, and it'll continue to go on that route.
Speaking to it's being kind of a modern time where you don't have to follow that tribes ate steaks and that sort of thing. I've had the question a few times of well, what if you're stranded down a desert island, what would you eat? And the retort I always liked was, well, what if you lived in a country that had a plentiful options for fruits and veggies and nuts and seeds and legumes? What would you eat?
That's absolutely right. And that's powerful because we have that, and we continue to try to live in this dark era, in this dark age, and it's because that's the way we're marketed, right? When I watch this cartoon with my kids, the amount of times that, macaroni and cheese pops up, milking, making your bones stronger, that was a big overcome too, right? When I was a kid, milk was on the dinner table, and I was having 4 glasses a day because my dad told me it'd make me strong. So, of course I'm going to drink milk, right? Now all of a sudden I realize what milk does to you and how it actually decays your bones, and it's like, well, nobody told me that. And it's almost like the analogy of the ham. Have you ever heard of the ham being cut off at Thanksgiving?
No, I haven't heard this.
It's the same thing with milk. This lady has this ham, and she has this pan, and she cuts off both sides of it, and she puts it in the pan. Well, her husband says, why in the world did you cut off the ends of the ham? And she says, it's what my mom did. So all of a sudden, he goes, well, I'm going to go ask your mom. So he asks his mother-in-law why she doesn't. She says, my mom did it. So he goes to her mother, and he says, why did you do it? And she said, it's because the pan was too small. So I had to cut off the ends to make it fit back in when I was growing up, right? So if you look at the diet of today, think about, and I would challenge all of your listeners to think about why you're eating what you're eating. Because a lot of people just eat out of convenience, right? They roll down the window, they're going through McDonald's, they're going through Burger King, Taco Bell, you name them all, right? They eat steak because it's supposed to make you strong and manly, right? People do all these strange things with food because their parents told them, just like this lady in this story cut off the pieces of the ham on the side because her mother did it because she didn't have a pan that fit. And that's how I was, right? I drank milk because my dad told me I'd be strong. But once you do your own research and you look into it of what this is, what you're putting into your body, it'll transform your mind. Same with fruits and vegetables, right? To your point, we live in the most plentiful place on the planet. We're fortunate to have that. So why are we trying in the dark ages?
Well, even the tribes who, they've studied tribes who have like a heavy plant based or have heavier meat based diet, and the ones who have a have plants as majority of their diet, they have a longer lifespan. They have they have better infant mortality rates, and their people in their tribe who are older are actually more active than those who are primarily a hunting tribe or a hunting group.
Yeah, and it becomes almost like from what I've read, they're not using it as their main course of meal, which is what
Right.
we do here, at least in the States, right? We have it as our main course for breakfast, for lunch, and for dinner. You can't go anywhere and get a pre-packed salad without having turkey on it or having ham on top of it or having cheese on top of it, right? When you go to the grocery store and you want something fast, or you're in an airport, you want something fast, every single one of those salads have those things on top of it. And you're like, man, am I the only person in this place where thousands and thousands of humans come through here? So
I can't how many times I'm in a store, whether it's even Whole Foods at times, going, I just want a salad.
that's it.
Why? Why can't I get something that have egg or turkey or chicken or bacon on it or feta up covering it? Why? It's a
Yeah, that's
vegetable.
right.
Why am I? Yeah, I'm having to buy the ingredients to make it in the store to have a salad once a. Geez. So you have a book coming out, correct?
Yeah, I have a book coming out that kind of dialogues of this massive change that came into my life called the Gazelle Mindset. Change your life, change your mind. And the more you think about it, whether money or relationships or sport or your diet, everything really comes down to just an emotion, and that's how you change. And that's how I started, right? I started with this Gazelle mindset that I was going to do this first triathlon, and I did it, and then it kind of turned into how can I get better faster? And I was doing the exact same things that these elite athletes were, right? I was sitting on the bike as long, I was running as long, and I was getting faster, but how could I recover faster so I could work harder? And that's what it progresses through. So it's almost like a memoir of how to change your life in an instant. Because everybody thinks it takes a long time, or we think way too big, right? And we don't chunk everything down. If you just minimize things from step to step to step, right? Or meal to meal to meal, or just day to day to day to day, right? If I were to come to somebody and say, man, you need to be a plant-based athlete for the next 30 years, well, that's going to terrify them, right? Well, it's like, hey, just try a plant-based diet for, that's all, for 20 days. And that's kind of what this Gazelle mindset goes through, is it takes what came into my mind and all the fears and what you're afraid of and breaking through those moments to do things that you never imagined. I never imagined I'd be in Maui competing with the most elite athletes in the world. But as you kind of get into the underworld of all these different things and you meet these different people, it's an incredible experience, and I wanted to share that with the world. And I'm actually offering the book for free because, to me, I think life is a gift, and the story kind of starts. I qualified. My final race was in Glorieta, New Mexico, and I was with a buddy, and it's just outside of Santa Fe. And it was a cool morning, and I was kind of in this real relaxed state. I was one of the top few out of the wall. I'm racing my bike around. I wasn't nervous at all. I just had this feeling I was going to compete really well. And as I was climbing this mountain, on the back of your calf in a lot of races, you'll put your age, so you kind of know who you're competing against. And as I'm climbing this mountain, I see this guy, and I stand up on my pedals and start just grinding. And out to him, I see that on the back of his calf, it says 74 years old. And at that moment, I kind of had this feeling, almost an epiphany or a euphoria, that I realized that, man, this guy at 74 years old is still living more than most people are, right?
Wow.
We get caught up in watching. For me, I watch Stranger Things, right? That just got released. You can sit there and watch it for hours, and it's not a bad thing. But then you have these guys who inspire you, right? And as I passed him on the bike, I yelled, "Go get him, young man!" And he told me, "Don't waste it." So that's why I kind of wrote this book, because everything starts in the mind. Whether it be your diet, whether it be your relationship, it all goes back to the psychology of different things. And the question that you asked me is, how could you make this change? How did it come about, right? And if you can understand your mind, if you can understand yourself, the world all of a sudden becomes a playground of sorts, right? And if you take it serious, saying, hey, if I really can remove 40% of my stress from my life, why wouldn't I take that chance, right? So that's why I wanted to share this gift of this book called The Gazelle Mindset, just so that people can kind of hear my story and maybe take a glimpse into the most untouched frontier, right? Which is the mind of the human being.
Where is it? Somebody, is there a place somebody can go to pre-order it or get notified when it's released, or?
Yeah, I'm going kind of back and forth with a couple folks on printing, so it'll probably be released. They wanted to do it right around December, but it's just too short a notice with the World Championship yesterday, so it'll probably be sometime next year.
Okay.
And I can give you those updates as it moves along.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll make sure to, I'll put everything in the show notes, but I'll make sure if you get me notified when it comes out or any place that people can sign up to get updates, let me know, and I'll definitely put it out so people can definitely check it out. So, who would you say the book is? Would you say the book is for really anybody, or is it somebody who is looking to get into a sport, or somebody who's in business? Or would you say it's more for anybody?
Yeah, it's probably for anybody. It's going to be pinned more towards people that are kind of stuck in life, people that are looking for change. And what I noticed with especially people in my genre of life, right, male and female, I've noticed with my wife friends too, you kind of get to this point, you're in your mid-30s, and you think, well, man, I got the job, I got the house, I got the kids, right? I'm driving a minivan. Is this it, right, for the next 30, 40 years? And Saturday morning, am I going to go to T-ball practice? And a lot of my buddies kind of fall into this world of like, man, I used to be the man in sports and kind of diminished from that, right? And they don't have a whole lot to live for. And then you have these moms that are craving for attention from their husbands, and they're just not getting it, right? Because they're both kind of in this limbo place of life. So that's kind of for the individual that's kind of trying to figure out who they are. And I think a lot of times we don't think about that. We take a job, and it's interesting. I would recommend your viewers to ask when they're on a plane for business or just for a friend, hey, why do you work at the company you work at? And a lot of people's response is, I work at the company I work at because they offered me a job. That's why I work there. And then I worked there for 4 or 5 years. And after I was there for 4 or 5 years, I got promoted. And then I just couldn't switch. I got comfortable, right? So it kind of answers the question of why. And it's the Socrates question, right, of the whole understanding yourself and going back to the Stoic world of being able to have perspective on life as well. But we have so much potential that we just don't tap into. And that's kind of who the book is for these people that kind of feel almost like they're stuck at a certain point in life, and that for the next 30 years, this is kind of where they're going to be at. And that's a depressing place to be.
Yeah, it's I know a few friends who are, and myself to a degree, because that's what I'm want to find in the book is. I think it's something even I could use. It kind of, I'm stuck in a weird place of like kind of, okay, now I'm in a position where is this what I'm gonna be doing forever, and how can I move forward in all aspects? And I think that's something that, all people that I know that are like that are kind of following in the exact same pattern they always been, and they obviously want more out of life to some degree.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we all deserve it too, and we're all capable of it. So why don't we do it? And I think that's kind of the question that it answers is, how can you do that, right? And maybe it's not making $10 million, right? Maybe it is. But it's being able to answer the question, why am I doing what I'm doing, right? And when you have that answer, there's a lot of fulfillment in it.
Right.
But we just don't ask those hard questions, and when we do, they're hard to answer sometimes because they require a significant amount of change that is attainable, but we kind of scare ourselves because we think too far ahead.
Well, why do you think people don't want to ask those questions?
Why don't they want to ask those questions? Because they've been told what to do their entire lives, right? They put milk on the table when I was a kid, and they
Okay.
poured it in my glass, and they told me it'd get strong, so I drank it. And that goes to anything in life. We drink what we're given on the table. Your parents send you to college to go be a doctor or a lawyer, right? And you'll meet a ton of doctors and lawyers that don't like what they do, but now they're $200,000 in debt, and they can't turn back. And
Right.
it's a shame, right? So I think when you sit down and you ask those questions of why am I here, what am I doing, not so much, and it doesn't have to go back to passion. I'm not saying if you wanted to be a painter, all of a sudden quit your job and be a painter, but figure out what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how you can progress. And you'll be amazed at the roads and the people that you meet, right? I never had an intention at the beginning of this year to become a plant-based human being, right? That only ate whole foods and plant-based athlete. But it transpired into it because I saw the path of trying to qualify for the world championship, and that was the next step in it. And people are going to find that out too, right? You find that out along the road of life. That's how that takes place.
Yeah, I kind of picking back off a little bit of because you were told to do that or be a certain way. And I think part of that is a fear of, I guess, a fear of investment of you've put these many years of like you said, getting the house, getting the dog, getting the kids, and put all this work into it, and you have a fear of questioning anything or where you are or where you're going because that makes you feel like you're questioning what you've done as being either a mistake or question if that's where you should be. I think people are afraid to ask why or anything like that because they're afraid they're questioning themselves and where they've come.
100%, 100%. But it takes these little steps, and it's going to help you. I've been fortunate enough to have people close enough to me that have kind of pushed me over the edge, per se. And I this is part of the book, and I'll share the story. And it's still an embarrassing story for me to share.
Well, please do.
I've been fortunate enough to work at a company with 3 of my best friends from college, which is absolutely unheard of. We've built a massive business that's in multiple states now. We're talking millions of dollars that we'll do. And it's really, really neat. And I got addicted to work. So at the beginning of the year, I was afraid to take any time off whatsoever because that would cost money to me, right? Me being at the business and setting examples to employees. And I'd always kind of get home later. So I ended up getting a coach that essentially said, one of my goals at the beginning of the year, and again, this is extremely embarrassing, I wanted to take Friday nights off so I can go out on dates with my wife. That's kind of how this journey all begins. And I thought that was enough. I started calculating how many thousands of dollars that would cost me. That was always how I wrapped up my emails and how I'd plan for my next week on Monday. I mean, from 2 o'clock to 6:30 or 7 o'clock on a Friday, I accomplished a lot. And there was just no way that I could take off Friday nights. That's insane. It doesn't make any sense. How about Saturday nights, right? And get into this huge feud. And bam, I scheduled the next 4 Fridays off, not the rest of the year, just the next 4 Friday nights off. And I told my wife that we're going to go out on a date, right? She's ecstatic. She thinks I just have. And guess what happened, David?
What's
Nothing. That? We went on those dates. We had the time of our lives. We were so thankful. We actually had a conversation with each other for 2.5 hours every single Friday, and we've done that for this entire year. And it was life-changing. But when I first thought about that, I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to cost me so much. This is going to cost me so much pain, right? Going back to the pain and pleasure. This is going to cost me so much pain, I can't do it.
Yeah.
And then you finally get pushed over the edge by somebody, and you do it. And guess what? It opens up a whole new world.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden our conversation turned into, hey, you should try to get back into sports potentially. And then that turned into that, which turned into being a vegan, which turned into being on this radio show with you. Was I doing at the beginning of the year anything bad? No, I was running a very successful business. There was nothing wrong in and of itself, but I was stuck. And I just thought there was no way I could ever take Friday nights off. And to your listeners right now are probably thinking, taking Friday nights off, man, that just sounds so minuscule. But to somebody who's a workaholic, it was a huge feat. But because I took that feat, it's led me to so many great places and to meet so many great people. It's been incredible.
I think it's kind of part of the Gazelle, the Gazelle lion thing as well as the Gazelle mindset is, it's part of that is the journey to reach the destination, because now you have the memories and you have the experiences that you have that are, one could, kind of hard to argue, that are worth more than, the thousands you may have calculated.
There's no doubt in my mind that if you jump on that bandwagon, you jump on that journey, and if you think about it that way, right, whether you're the lion or the gazelle, and you have to get up and run, you'll do whatever it takes to survive. Period. If you want to strengthen your relationship, you have to spend time with them. You have to take them out on dates, right? Period. That's what you have to do.
Yeah.
If you want the relationship to survive. And I was not thinking that was important until all of a sudden one day I made that change. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah, I mean, like now I have a thing where, like, I've talked about I haven't been on a vacation since I was like 16, so almost 20 years. And my girlfriend now, she's like we're going on vacations, she's basically planning this and telling me what we're going to do and to pull me away from it. And and I'm normally I would argue, but I'm like, nope, I got to back down. I got to actually open up to this, or else I run the risk of damaging the relationship, because I'm more worried about, in this case, being the lion and not the gazelle in this case.
David, first of all, you found a great girl.
I agree.
She's a decision maker, so well done there. Hold on to her. But the key of what she did there too, you kind of gave away a secret, and the secret is, and I'm sure you said you've been taking a vacation for 16 years, 20 years,
nearly, yeah.
Okay, so that's crazy, by the way.
Agreed.
But I guarantee you there was a time where you're sitting around with your buddies or you're sitting around with somebody and you get really excited about going on someplace, right? Going to some vacation, going to some destination.
Mm-hmm.
And you get really jazzed up to do it, and then nothing happens.
Yeah.
Right? And as you look back, and you're like, wow, why didn't that happen? But if you make a very conscious decision immediately, right? So all of a sudden, what your girlfriend did was very important. She essentially didn't give you the choice. She forced you to do something that she knew would be good for you. And I guarantee you it's going to be an awesome experience, because you haven't experienced it in over 2 decades, which is a shame, right?
Right.
There's going to be so much pleasure and experiences and restaurants that you get to go to and all these different things that are going to be so much fun because action was taken. A lot of people get excited about going to Plantbased, but then they never do it. They get excited about going on vacation, and then they never do it. But if you take a action immediately, that's the key. You have to take action right away. A small action, right? Maybe it's her just saying, hey, I booked our tickets, and maybe she can refund them, right? Through some airlines, you can refund those tickets, but she booked it, right? So now all of a sudden you're thinking about, how am I going to take time off of work? How is this possible, right? But It's got your mind thinking about taking time off of work. And now you're going because you just told everybody on the internet that you're going on a vacation. So where are you going?
Well, she wants to go to Portland and kind of visit the area over there, and I've wanted to go for years, and she's like, well, we're gonna go. I'm like, okay, all right, and kind of letting it go. But what I find interesting, is what we both kind of mentioned, with her and a lot of people you worked with, is what's important, seems to be very important, is the people you have around you. So it's not just your own mindset; the mindset of others around you helps you really feed into being positive and making those changes.
Yeah, we can throw quotes around all we want, right?
Right.
One of the most significant quotes that I've ever heard, and it's the most impactful, is the person you will be in 5 years is based on the people you meet and the books you read. I don't know who said that. We could probably look it up on the internet, whoever said that. But it's an awesome quote. Because you're right. You become the people you're around. just like I said at the beginning, right? You go to the gym, and I'm a plant-based athlete, and all of a sudden, after a certain amount of time, these people say, hey, man, tell me about your diet, right?
Yeah.
And you have these people that are slowly converting to a plant-based diet.
Mm-hmm.
Just like your girlfriend, right? Hey, we're going on vacation, right? And you want to be with your girlfriend, and she wants to go to Portland, so boom, you're going to Portland. So if you have these people in your life, and the important part is having people that make decisions for you that are unbiased. And, being a parent, you can make a decision for somebody or a friend, but usually side with those people, and you're somewhat sensitive to them, so you're gonna favor them. If they give you some pushback, they say, oh, okay, maybe we'll do it next year, right?
Yeah.
But if you get somebody that is, a life coach, or somebody that is, 20 or 30 years advance of you, that'll essentially tell you, hey, man, this is what you need to do, or hey, girl, this is what you need to do immediately, right? No questions asked. I don't care about your opinion. I don't care how you feel. This is going to make you a better human being, and they push you to do that. Those are the people who are going to make the difference, and those are the people that are going to keep you accountable. The challenge is that you have to seek them out. They're not going to seek you out. They're probably too busy being successful. So if you can find somebody that will hold you accountable to these different things or push you to a better life, that makes a significant difference. And, yeah, you're right. It's this herd that you create around yourself that you're going to help raise up. And it's not just in one facet of life. It's in all facets of life. It's the relationship that you find yourself in. It's the people that will get up early in the morning and go to the gym with you. It's the people that are vegan and want to find those restaurants in town. They're going to do that. And the people that are just doing incredible things in arts and sciences and culture, and that are taking chances, right? Maybe it's signing up for a half a marathon. Maybe it's signing up for a Spartan race, and different things like that, but are willing to take those chances with you.
Right. And it's all about trusting them too. People who are willing to make those decisions and give you those opinions, and trusting that they know what they're doing, and just again keeping that herd. I like the idea of keeping a good herd. I like that. So I don't
Important.
go ahead.
It's important.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I've learned that over the past few years. Have be was it? I think my mom always told me to be mindful of the company you keep. And that's something that I've learned as well for the past few years. Of my herd may be small at times, but the important thing is be aware, and and welcome those that I keep within that herd.
Absolutely.
I don't want to. I want to keep you too late, because I know it's not too late for you, but you definitely have. It's earlier, so there's things you want to take care of before the day gets too late. I do have a big question I try to ask people is, if you could go back before you made like all these transitions and these changes, both diet and sport and fit, from a physical standpoint, if you go back to that time in yourself, what would you say?
Ask the question to yourself, why? Because if you can answer the question why, you'll have a much better perspective. So if you ask better questions and find out why, you'll have all the answers. Your brain automatically finds all of the answers for you. Now, if you tell yourself, if you and I are sitting next to in a room together, and you said, man, I wish I had more money, and I pull out a $1 bill and I hand it to you, and I said, David, get out of here, man. You got more money, right? And you said, no, more money, I meant like $1 million.
Right.
Also, well, you didn't ask that question. So if I could go back in time and ask this question, say specifically, what do you want? Very, very dialed in, what do you want? And shoot really, really big for the stars.
Yeah.
Because we always talk about asking the question why. Are we talking about asking better questions? But doing it is another story that tells a different story per se, right? When you start thinking about the whys, right? Thinking about why you're doing what you're doing specifically in life. My biggest fear was, especially at the beginning of this year when I got into this, I didn't want to be 74 years old and enter my first race. While that was cool that guy was 74 years old, I didn't want to wait that long, right? I don't want to get to my deathbed and say, man, I wish I would have done X, Y, and Z. I want to accomplish life. I want to do these different things. And if you ask yourself these questions, your brain has so much propensity to do amazing things, it'll accomplish them. We just don't sit around and think about asking really good questions. We ask terrible questions, and we tell ourselves terrible things every single morning, right? I wish I was in better shape. I wish I had a better relationship. I wish I had a better boss. Guess what? Change it. You can do it, right? But we get so comfortable living our lives, and then we get to the end of it saying, man, I have a feeling I could have done so much more, which is probably why our grandparents always tell us that, right? You can do anything you want. Don't waste your life.
Right.
So if I could go back in time, I'd say, ask myself the question, why are you doing what you're doing now? And ask myself better questions.
Wow. Good answer. I think I'll accept the answer. So
Good.
You get an A on that one. You win that one. So where can people get more information if they want to reach out for you with questions or comments or anything like that, or just they want to find out more information about the book that's coming out?
Yeah, so there's a Facebook page for the book. It's kind of light, but if they want to follow me and send out information, when this kind of started coming to fruition, that I had done my first triathlon at the beginning of this year, and that I had a chance of competing in the World Championships and had some top 10 finishes across the states. People started getting people's attention. They wanted to know what in the world I was doing. So I started a little Facebook page. It's just Jordan Winar Facebook page, or jordanwinar.com, and they can go there and check out. I usually post different things that I'm eating. I've been off there for like a week now because I was getting ready for the World Championship. So I'll be posting a little race report on there, kind of what I was eating before the World Championship.
Nice.
How my nutrition was during the championship and what I did afterwards. Right, I didn't jump off the bridge like everybody usually does. They go eat. That's the one thing that I was always amazed by after these big races, whether it's a half marathon or a triathlon or a marathon or an ultra run. These people, they train all this stuff, and then going back to the beginning of our conversation, they go eat pizza and Coke and all this kind of stuff, right? And if you're a vegan, you go eat potato chips and you go pig out on all that junk.
Yeah.
So it's just about staying focused and thinking about the next thing that's coming up.
Excellent. Yeah, and I'll have links to your site and everything up for everyone on our Facebook page, on the show notes, everything, so they can get in touch with you.
I appreciate it, Dave. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely, yeah. Thanks for being on, and definitely being a big moment of inspiration. Definitely, even for me, it's kind of like even my brain is kind of going and my wheels are turning. So I appreciate it. And thanks for coming on and talking with me and letting us pick your brain.
You bet. I can't wait to hear your episode of Portland when you talk to all the chefs out there that do vegan dishes.
Oh, so yeah, I'm about to bring my equipment.
Put that on the agenda.
Oh, I am now. That's a great idea. That's gonna note that down. Definitely. Yeah, thanks for coming on. If you would kind of hang on for a second, and we'll chat a little bit after. But thanks for being on the show.
You bet. Thanks, David.
Thank you.